I'm so excited to witness such discussions, and I'm hopeful that all of you from all around the world, are equally interested in the topics of today's second day of Webit Global Impact Week, labeled Economic Sustainers. We're talking about sustainability. We're talking about the new economy that we all, with you, built for the sake of the desirable future, above all, for the sake of the future of our kids and grandchildren. And furthermore, we shall be now moving to mobile innovation and power of connectivity. And we have live from Los Angeles, Connie Lee. Connie, welcome. Please present yourself in your panel.
Hello and welcome to Webit's Global Impact Week. My name is Connie Lee and I'm an international reporter and producer based in Los Angeles. I'll be moderating today's discussion on mobile innovation and the power of connectivity. I am joined by some wonderful guests who are experts in this industry. Now, if we can have each of our panelists introduce themselves, starting with Mr. Stephen Douglas.
Hi, Connie, and very nice to be here. I'm Steve Douglas. I head up 5G and market strategy for Spirent Communications, the test and assurance supplier in the ICT industry. So we work across the complete communication industry, helping test all of the systems, networks, devices before they go commercially live, and then help our customers monitor them when they are live to make sure they're delivering on the performance experiences.
Hi, so I am Alexandre. I'm the president and CEO of Kinéis, a satellite operator and a global IoT connectivity provider. We today have 7 satellites. We'll launch 25 more, but I will talk today a little further. Thank you.
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm Jeremy Prince, so I'm the CEO of Sigfox. Sigfox is one of the leading IoT technologies, and we are today, thanks to our Sigfox operators, in 75 countries, and I'll be happy to talk about it in more details during the panel.
Awesome. And for those of you watching, please feel free to share your thoughts or questions on social media with the hashtag Webit. That's WEBIT. Now, let's begin with a fireside chat with Jeremy Prince, the CEO at Sigfox. Now, Jeremy, before becoming CEO, you were the Chief Strategy Officer when you first joined the company in 2018. Now, tell us, what were some of the most important choices you made and or lessons learned in that position before taking the top spot of a company that's one of the world's leading IoT services provider?
So yes, as you said, I joined in 2018 after a long career in tech and media. I was working closely with the 2 founders and trying to lead a few different strategic initiatives. And also I was in charge of our Sigfox operators that are owned by Sigfox, because as I said, we are in 75 countries officially. Might be a few announcements in the coming months. And in most of those countries, we rely on independent partners that have become Sigfox operators, but we own the ones in France and the US. And well, one of the first big decisions that I had to make as a family was moving to the US, as I moved to Dallas to lead the charge there. It's been a ride. I arrived from a completely different industry because I was working for Technicolor, so more in production and visual effects, and quite far away. But one of the things I love within Sigfox and the IoT as a whole is, in fact, when you work with your customers, you're not selling off-the-shelf services. If you want to provide the right service to the customer and to the partner, you really need to understand what he's doing. And that's really one of the things that I enjoy. It's you talk to very different industries, from transportation to food industry, beer kegs, etc., etc. And yeah, moving to the US was a tough call. I enjoyed every minute of it. We have been also working in in the satellite space with one of our shareholders to explore what we can do in this space for IoT. That was a really interesting one too, and I'll be happy to learn a bit more about Alexandre's journey in that space. And in fact, let's say that we're at a stage of the company where the market is finally taking off. It took more time than we thought. Analysts were probably wrong when they predicted the start, but interestingly, we're at a phase now where we see that it's the big players are moving in, they're embracing IoT, and Sigfox is moving into a new era that's more industrialized. One of the two founders was more into launching the company and serial entrepreneur, and that's when he decided that he'd rather pass the burden on to me to go through that next phase with the same team, so not that bad.
Well, I hope you and your family are adjusting well to the United States. That was a big move. If I can get a little glimpse of your strategy in your new position as CEO, what is the strategy in your current position to fulfill Sigfox's mission for digitizing the physical world, and at the same time being committed to the benefits of IoT in a manner that respects and sustains the environment?
Yeah, and I think that last point is very important. So in fact, when I was appointed CEO of Sigfox Group, I moved back to Europe. So now we're back in France. I think from inception, Sigfox was designed from a technology point of view and from a business model point of view for massive IoT. And as I said, it's finally coming. So number one decision is maybe to stay consistent. It's been from day one our vision, and it's not now that it's finally arriving that we need to change the way we're considering it. We believe that we have a very frugal plug and play, deploy and forget technology. And I think it's key because when you look at IoT, in fact, and here also we're talking about IoT, but for me, there's no such thing as one IoT market. I believe IoT is composed of different segments, different use cases, and in this space, you have got different technologies. Every technology has got pros and cons. I know Stephen is going to talk about 5G. We are probably the opposite, and it doesn't mean that there's not space for 5G and there's not space for Sigfox. I think it's all about matching the right technology with the right segments and the right use cases. When you look at Sigfox, for us, clearly very limited data, but very frugal and easy to deploy technology. So we look at monitoring and tracking as our sweet spots. And that's all about executing, looking at those two sweet spots where you can reap the benefits of Sigfox.
Well, let's have that as our conclusion in our fireside chat with Jeremy Prince, CEO of Sigfox. Let's open up the discussion to the rest of our panel if we're joined by Stephen and Alexander. Now let's talk about the pandemic. Now the pandemic has affected every single one of us in so many ways, but let's talk about the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic has had or has on the IoT industry. Would you say the Internet of Things changed for the better? Like, did it boost mobile innovation? Stephen, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, Connie, I think it certainly accelerated innovation. I mean, obviously the movement to work from home or work from anywhere certainly triggered, a desire to enable better connectivity to the home and also better connectivity back into the enterprise environments to allow people to, I suppose, automate tasks remotely to manage a lot of that. So we certainly saw a lot of those challenges come to the fore, and that triggered a lot of certainly new innovation cycles in terms of how do we enable secure connectivity into the home to allow those enterprise applications to be made available to the employees as they work from anywhere. That triggered a whole set of security requirements we're starting to see now in the industry, which is ongoing. I think it also brought the cloud and the hyperscalers more into the mix. I think, especially from the cellular connectivity standpoint, I think it sort of brought that marriage, which was maybe a marriage of convenience in the early years, now more to a strategic partnership where we're starting to see them work more closely together to deliver more innovative applications at the edges of the network, closer to the end user, closer to the industries, to the enterprises. And I think we've started to see quite a lot of those sort of major changes, this more secure connectivity, automation capabilities being brought in, and sort of cloud being a sort of a key enabler to it.
How about you, Alexander? What kind of effect did the pandemic have on the IoT industry?
There has been several phases in the pandemic, and I mean, there was this first 6 months in 2020 that has been obviously horrible for a lot of companies. And from the IoT point of view, what we saw is that our clients would not really be focused on IoT connectivity, because they were actually focused on their core business. They wanted just first to have their company just still working. And so it has come afterward, because then people began to have a conscious of that the IoT could be a solution to help them have information on the field. And because everyone was locked down, having IoT deployed would be a competitive advantage, and before that would be actually necessary for their business. So there's been this second phase where we saw companies and people really more aware of IoT, and everyone began to be really interested in these technologies, and especially for us in the space IoT. So yeah, as Jeremy said, I think this has been the moment where we saw that the market finally is taking off. And so this is really, an opportunity for us. And analysts have confirmed that when we see in the IoT sector, and especially in the satellite IoT, analysts have reviewed their prediction like much higher than before. And so this is really a good opportunity that we need to seize now.
I think Stephen mentioned this briefly, some of the challenges having to be on security issues. What would you say are probably the biggest challenges that you faced or your company faced during the pandemic, and how did you manage to tackle them?
So I would say that the first huge challenge when you're looking at a company, it's before anything else, people. And the first impact of the pandemic, it was that you could no longer get together. You could no longer interact directly. So now we've got all those beautiful tools, but I am sometimes old school, even if I'm into tech, and I do enjoy being in the same meeting room than my colleagues. But more seriously, all organizations had to adapt to that. And it has been a first challenge. If you look also at Sigfox more specifically, and probably even more our Sigfox operators in the countries, deploying the networks at one stage was also troublesome, because you need to physically go and deploy the network, and you couldn't travel, or to do so you needed to expose your colleagues to potential danger. So those were the two immediate dangers and the immediate struggles. But to Alexandre's point, the other side of the coin is, I think in a way, IoT contributed directly also to improve things during the pandemic. And there are direct impacts, like solutions that were deployed in hospitals, like air quality monitoring today in schools, in offices, to make sure that the premises are aired sufficiently to avoid contagion. So yeah, there are struggles, but it's also proven that IoT can contribute to a better world in a way, even if it sounds a bit phony.
Alexander, what were some of the biggest challenges your company faced?
Yeah, somewhat the same. I mean, we were at this stage. So luckily enough, on the space development side, we were still in the engineering process, in the engineering phase. So people were working on their laptop. We already had all these video conference tools set up, so it was okay. But regarding the business development side, it was horrible. As we said, we couldn't reach people. They were not focused on what we were proposing. And like Jeremy said, we could not go on the field to see people and to make just a demonstration, just with a device. Okay, take the device, put it outside. Okay, it connects to the satellites and it works, and then you go ahead. And we couldn't even do that. So it's been quite a challenge. So we did two things. First, we put a lot of energy into developing some webinars to have people connected and to inform new clients and to assist our first clients to deploy our solutions. And also we sent a lot of hardware to you mean by postal and so it worked that way, but it was quite a change. And when we were not all locked down all the time, but when we could go a little outside, and it became a lot easier because we could go see clients at least to help them set up the hardware, and so this has been really more easy.
Well, now this next question is for Stephen. We're going to talk about 5G technology. Stephen, how does 5G technology impact and improve our everyday lives? But also on the flip side, can you tell us about the possible negative effects?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, what I would say is, I mean, 5G's got a huge potential, but in reality, it's a complementary technology to a lot of other connectivity technologies which are available today. But the mechanisms that it is bringing, ultra fast speeds, really low latency, the reliability, are certainly going to make huge impacts on systems like our industries, making them more agile and efficient, competitive through things like intelligent automation. We're going to see, safer and more energy efficient transportation systems through connected vehicles, intelligent transport systems in our cities and highways, reducing accidents and fatalities. You're already seeing early signs of use in the agricultural industry, where we're seeing efficiencies around sustainability by empowering precision agriculture, providing new ways even to access education and health services. We saw this through the pandemic with new ways for immersive and personalized ways to engage through education and health. And I think the final area you're probably going to see is quite a lot of it around also stimulating innovation in national economies. Where we're starting to see, sectors as diverse as the gaming industry, financial services, and even the rural economies, which would historically been seen as the digital divide, is starting to potentially embrace things like 5G to actually stimulate those environments and create new innovation around it. So it's certainly got lots of potential if we get it right. But at the same time, it's only one tool in a toolkit, which needs other connectivity mechanisms to sort of complement and work with it. And I think that really straddles into what the negative side maybe is around, and the challenges, at least with 5G today. And they really relate to, I would say, isolationism and cost. If I start with isolationism, I mean, if the mindset in some areas of 5G is about that it can do everything on its own and it doesn't need anything else, then I think it becomes sort of self-defeating. I think 5G is a great technology tool. It's a great potential with it. But we need to embrace many other technologies to provide the sort of ubiquitous, cost-effective and consistent connectivity that's going to be required to really holistically sort of instrument everything. So I think that's one of its challenges. I think the secondary side is cost. It is a bit of the elephant in the room. It's a pretty big investment for our carriers and service providers to deploy 5G, to buy access rights to the spectrum licenses. They're going to have to build a huge amount of new cell sites and locations across our national markets. And obviously that all impacts time, it all impacts availability of it, and it certainly can inflate the costs of it. So I think there's a focus at the moment, how do we, in the 5G world, get offset those costs, bring them down, and help generate all of those potential benefits that it could bring, to really start to see the value with it.
Mm. And Stephen, can you tell us about the specific products or solutions that Spirent Communications is currently working on for 5G testing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, our focus as a test, obviously, insurance company is to help the industry realize those benefits while we can looking to rapidly offset those challenges. And I mean, the way to do this and the way Spirent works is that we look to provide innovative and automated test solutions which allow the 5G device manufacturers, the handset guys, the network equipment providers rapidly develop and validate their solutions for commercial use so they can get to market as quick as possible. While at the same time, we're enabling the service providers, the Verizons, AT&T, Vodafones of the world, with continuous integration and delivery environments, basically allowing them to have an agile and cost-efficient deployment mechanism to allow 5G to be rolled out as fast as possible and as safely as possible. And today we're engaged in actually over 1,400 5G engagements globally. I mean, all of the leading technology providers in the 5G space are working with us to rapidly test their new solutions, their new networks, and their new services.
Now, this next question is for all of our panelists. Going green is a hot topic for so many countries around the world right now. Can 5G and IoT really be green? Jeremy, you want to start us off?
I wouldn't say for 5G. I think there is a need for what I would define as high-end IoT with fast connectivity, and Stephen described it very well. I'm not sure it's optimized for every use case, to be honest. If you take the example of tracking something like a pallet using 5G, it's a bit like fishing with a hand grenade. It works, but you can't really say that it's an optimized way of doing it. So you really need to think about using the right technology for the right need. No, I think it's an equation. What benefit does it bring? And I'm not talking about 5G in particular, I'm talking about the whole IoT space. What benefit does it bring from an environmental point of view? And there are lots. I mean, even tracking, you opt to collect things, you need to order less, less pallets, less trolleys, etc. So that's what I would call the benefits, and then it's the cost. What's the cost from an energy point of view? What's the cost from a components, battery point of view? I'm not going to do greenwashing and say that Sigfox is there. What I will say is that we're very aware of the fact that if you're looking at billions of devices in the open, you need to take that into account. Otherwise, we're back to the same than the mobile phones or the computers. We're aware of it. We are lucky enough to have a very frugal technology, and to give you an example, and Stephen's going to like that one. One 5G antenna uses as much energy as the whole French Sigfox network. It doesn't do the same. So once again, it's all about picking what technology you use for what segment, for what use case. But I think we've got to get out of the French saying that who can the most can the least. I think when you need the most, you need to use the most. But when you want the least, you need to use something that's optimized. And I would join Stephen saying that each technology complement each other.
Alexander, how about you? What's your take?
Your microphone, Alexandre.
Yes, you want to unmute yourself again?
Yeah, sorry. I'll take this one and let Stefan answer the 5G question afterwards. So yes and no. I mean, like Jeremy said, it's all a matter of balance. Obviously, building things, building stuff, satellites, antennas, objects is costing energy, is costing resources. So on that point, it's not green. What you need to see is what you have with that. What benefit do you get? If you, for example, we are tracking like wild animals for scientists, so they can detect climate change because they see that animals are, for example, going further to get their food. We are working on detecting wildfire earlier with some sensors in forests so that you can prevent that faster. We are tracking fishing nets, so you can find them and avoid lost fishing nets, because you have a lot of fishing nets actually that are lost in the ocean. So this has the good application, and then you have all of the application that you can learn, you can question yourself on is it green in the sense of energy consumption or carbon footprint, but you also have to question the social benefit of it, and is then all of a balance that you need to consider. But to be perfectly honest, the best judge in that is to have a carbon footprint, to calculate carbon footprint of your company and your project. And we started this at Kinéis. We started a carbon footprint calculation of the whole system, and then we want to do that on every project so that we can see if we have a positive impact or not, and then decide what to do next.
Steve?
Yeah, Connie, I was just going to, jump in just a little bit to say, I mean, it's just a slightly different opinion of this. And it's absolutely right, by the way, that 5G and IoT technologies, do look to reduce their carbon footprints. I think that's in everybody's interest, and it should be. But a slightly different perspective on it, I think, is that 5G and IoT is actually greater potential. And to what Alexandre was saying, there is actually enable green outcomes across multiple different industry sectors. While it's critical, certainly we do get our own house in order and reduce our emissions. The ICT industry actually only contributes less than 2.5% to global emissions. Now that's still far too high, but actually, 80% of the worldwide emissions are attributed to 4 major sectors: energy production, agriculture, manufacturing, and transportation. And without these sectors dramatically and quickly reducing their greenhouse gas emissions, we will fail to avert climate catastrophe. And I think this is really where the big opportunity for 5G and IoT is, to make a difference in their industries, helping them, in whether it's in our factories, reduce energy consumption with solutions for intelligent automation and HVAC, helping our cities reduce carbon emissions with smart traffic and building management and agriculture, protecting habitats, precision farming, and even in manufacturing, enabling new circular value chains within it. And I think this is the role where 5G and IoT technologies can bring to bear. So I think it's absolutely right that we also, we make sure technologies like 5G and like IT are as energy efficient as possible. But actually, their role in helping other economies, I think, is something we need to really promote and start looking at how we can enable them to help those other industries.
Yeah.
So I guess the answer to, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add to that. Yes, indeed, carbon footprint is key, and we also need to work on how we can make biodegradable, maybe not whole devices, but parts of it, recyclable devices. Once again, we need to invest time and money on that, and clearly we've got a good starting point. So we can't do everything in IoT, as I said, and I think there's room for everyone. But for what we do, and we do hopefully well, we're really committing to try and work on enabling our ecosystem to produce, at the minimum, recyclable devices. We're working on energy harvesting, on as simple as possible devices, etc., because we are looking at billions of devices.
Yeah, exactly, and you're totally right. I mean, carbon is not the only thing to look at, and like Stephen said, also, if you look at the whole impact you have on the process of the companies you are helping with IoT solution, you can calculate also maybe benefits that you wouldn't have otherwise. So it's a whole thing. But at the end, I think that anyway, whether carbon or other things to monitor, you need to have indicators and to monitor what you're doing, so that we can objectivize what we're doing. So we are not just in greenwashing saying, and we are in real proof of that we are doing a positive impact.
And would you say for 5G and IoT companies, it's easy to make going green a top priority, or is it more difficult, would you say?
That is the big question. I mean,
I think it's not a choice. In fact, I think as an individual, I've got children. I'd rather work for a company that contributes to a better world than the other way around, and I think it's in the DNA of Sigfox. But even on a more cynical note, if you look at it from a business point of view, I think all big IoT projects, all big companies are going to integrate that question when they choose a technology, when they choose a partner, so for all those reasons, I don't believe it's a choice anyway.
No, absolutely agree with that. I mean, we're seeing more and more, whether it's our customers demanding it as part of their RFP proposals. We're seeing it from the investor community who are demanding it from our board. So I think it isn't a choice anymore. So it's we certainly see it as it's part of the strategy of our business, and to take a leadership role in it as well. I mean, one of the key areas for a company like Spirent, we are in the testing space. And back to the point, sir, one of the areas our industry is very good at trying to work out what KPIs, what we should measure things, and I think that is a gap at the moment, specifically, in the whole environment thing. How do we actually correctly and accurately measure what is in different industries are doing, and how we report that holistically as well? And I think that's going to be a change we're going to see. And I expect that you'll start to see that being driven into more and more requirements, where people will have to not just deliver their solutions on how fast they go or how low the latency is, but suddenly there will be more emphasis on how energy efficient they are, how green they are.
Yeah, very true. I mean, and like Jemery said, we don't have the choice. Young people don't want to work for carbon positive or negative, I don't know how you say it, companies. So anyway, we have to adapt. So it will happen. So the point is, do we want to make it happen by controlling it and knowing what we are doing, or do we want that to happen not controlling it? And so, yeah, KPIs are one thing, and but we really have to document it very precisely, because people are more and more accurate in this domain. And like, for an example, if you talk about carbon compensation by planting trees, this doesn't work because you plant a tree and then it compensates the carbons, but like 50 years ahead. And the problem is now. So these things you have to take it in account, and so you have to be very serious about that.
Yeah,
good to hear. Good to know.
And I was going to say, it's not only young people that are concerned.
Yes.
And I'm not that young anymore, unfortunately. But seriously, it's got to be at the heart of what we're doing, of course. And I mean, we once again, IoT can bring a lot of goodness, and Stephen was talking about everything it can do. Alexandre was talking about everything it can do, and we shouldn't turn a blind eye on the dark side of it, but we need to work to make sure that it's only the bright side that comes out at the end, and that's our responsibility within our technologies, but also within decision making. Sometimes we need to collaborate, and if tomorrow there's a project that requires 5G for a part and low-end frugal connectivity for another part, and some satellite coverage for another part, then rather than trying to take it all, we need to integrate that to optimize it from an economical point of view, but also from an environmental point of view.
Well, it sounds very promising, and it's good to hear that companies are, in fact, taking more of a proactive stance to be more green. Alexandre, this next question is for you. Tell us about the IoT satellites you and your company developed. Now, what is your strategy behind developing a new operational service?
Yeah, so actually we already have an operational service because, like I said in the introduction, I think we already have 7 satellites flying today at around 800 kilometers. So they are in a low altitude, so they are passing over your head, and then you wait for the next. And so we already have like 20,000 active devices connected to the system. And at Kinéis, we are building 25 more nanosatellites that will be launched in 2023 from New Zealand. And it will allow us to have near real-time connectivity on any point of the globe and at the surface of the globe. And this is really any point. I mean, from one pole to the other, from the ocean to the desert, even cities. Although in cities, we have better networks than satellites. We have to admit it, like Sigfox or like other networks. And this is where we also have a hybrid strategy. We are doing partnerships with terrestrial operators to have hybrid devices, and we are building this kind of small modules like 2 centimeters by 3, and inside we can put our little chipset 7 millimeter wide that is connecting to the satellite, and we can also put like a Sigfox or LoRa, for example, chipset, and so the device would connect to the terrestrial networks when it is in range, and when it is not, it switches to the satellite system, and it's obviously seamless for the user. And so this is really where we are going. We see a lot of use cases that need this kind of needs, from illegal fishing to smart agriculture, smart farming, also logistics, because they are going from one connected zone to another. And so between them, they need satellite connectivity. And so, yeah, with Kinéis, we are really reducing the cost of satellite connectivity. We are making it much, much easier than it was before. And we definitely see a lot of new services for this kind of connectivity.
And Alexander, where do you see your company Kinéis set in about 10 years from now? What kind of company do you want Kinéis to be?
Wow, this is a tough question. So a great green company. And so actually, I don't know, because things are going so fast. I mean, in the connectivity sector, even in the satellite connectivity and in the satellite industry in general, there are so many innovations. Today, we have our own satellites, but what about tomorrow? Maybe we'll launch just small payloads on other satellites. Maybe we just also buy space as a service opportunities. And there are so many things. What I see is that these IoT services are going really taking off. And so we will be one of the main operators on that. Maybe we will work more with other partners, whether terrestrial or satellite ones, or even in the digital world, because a lot of what we are producing, a lot of data we're producing are really useful for a lot of people, and you need analytics and you need data mining to use that. Maybe we don't have all inside the company. Maybe we partner with others. So a lot of paths to develop the company. The main part is that we already position ourselves on creating data to make good decisions for our clients, and this is really what drives us today.
How about for you, Jeremy? What does the future look like for Sigfox?
It looks very interesting for Sigfox and the whole IoT space, and I'm really excited about it. I think when you look at Sigfox, we clearly have picked our fights. Let's say tracking, monitoring, simple, low cost, frugal, hopefully greener and greener. And when we see things moving forward, so there's this investment in how do we make our ecosystem produce greener devices, recyclable, etc. And I think it's also key for us to see that the cost of the solution going lower and lower. As I said, we're a very frugal solution, Sigfox, a very cost-efficient solution, because within our segment, and once again, it's not all segments. I mean, satellite is totally relevant when you're in some area where with difficult coverage, etc. 5G is totally relevant for high-end applications and devices. But when you look at Sigfox and you take the example of tracking, today, with the cost of the solution, you're going to track hundreds of thousands, millions of devices, of assets, that are in the hundreds of euros value. But every time you lower the cost of ownership, the data cost of ownership, every time you lower the barrier to entry, so deployment, maintenance, etc., you open new opportunities. And if you can take an example like DHL, that's one of our customers, today they track roller cages where you put parcels, so that's hundreds of thousands. But tomorrow, as we bring this cost of ownership of the data down, one day they can potentially connect parcels. And that's why I'm saying we've got a huge responsibility to make sure that those hundreds of millions, billions of devices are as green as possible.
And Stephen, what are some future plans for Spirent Communications?
Yeah, I think a big area for us is to help the industry enable what I would call self-driving networks, really sort of allow them to embrace machine learning and artificial intelligence inside the networks to allow them to dynamically optimize, scale, defend themselves, manage themselves. I think that's where we're seeing a lot of networks gradually evolving to, and we think we're at the forefront of helping them to do that. I think the other area that I think is a really exciting area for us in the future is really just to help the whole journey towards convergence and what we would call network of networks, where we try to break the silos of these isolations, or say that occur within the technologies, and we allow them to, when they need to, and when they can, when they have to, or when they want to, or when they should do, integrate in a very simple and easy way, so that you can create these loose federations of networks, which, you know, as Jeremy said, when they're maybe the most environmental, where it's maybe the most cost efficient. But to do that, it's about creating openness, it's creating open networking. And I think, again, we see ourselves as a key enabler to help. How do you validate that? How are we going to prove that interoperability, guarantee that ease of openness? And I think those are two major areas for us, as part of our growth.
And let's end this discussion with one final question for all of our panelists. What would you say is your vision or prediction for the coming decades in the IoT industry on a global scale? Like, what would you say are the most important innovations that is driving the future forward?
Okay, I'll jump in first. So no, I think that opening new opportunities by enabling cost efficiency, simplicity, and environmental efficiency is key. And I'm quite excited because I like to compare things. And when you compare it to the internet, I think when internet started, no one imagined the Googles, the Facebooks of this world, and no one foresaw, or otherwise they're very rich, what was going to happen. And I think with data being available in such an efficient way, you're going to see things that are going to arrive that we can't even imagine. So I think the analysts were wrong when they predicted the start of IoT, a massive IoT. And I think they'll be wrong again at the end, because it will be bigger, even bigger than what they expect.
Yeah, I would say I got in. So yeah, greener, cheaper, easier, and global, really truly global. And by that I mean convergence between satellite and terrestrial in any way. We already see some experimentation with other frequencies, other protocols, the waveforms to do satellite IoT. Also, like indoor. Today we only have outdoor satellites, for example. Tomorrow, if we have a solution that is going indoor into the buildings and into the cities, that is able to connect to satellites in a very global way. I mean, with greener and recyclable devices, like Jeremy said, we'll have a lot of new application, a lot of new use cases that we cannot imagine.
I think, Connie, I mean, just from my side, I think one of the interesting ones we'll see in the next 10 years is, IoT brought it to the machines. I think machines are now bringing it back to the human body. So I think body area networks is the next big evolution you're going to see in the next 10 years, where we're going to be instrumenting ourselves more, at whether they're on skin level sensors or they're in body sensors. And that will open up a whole new world of physiological communications. We're already trying to do this to start work out how we actually do teleportation services today. Where we can actually, augment what we send today in terms of, we do voice and vision. Now we want to do touch and feel. But if we can do more than that, in terms of by enabling IoT in the body, I think could revolutionize healthcare, social care, lots of things, even new industries. But I think that's a big trend that we're starting to see a lot of focus on.
So a lot to look forward to in the world of IoT. Now that concludes our discussion today on mobile innovation and the power of connectivity. Thank you so much to each of our panelists for joining us today for Webit's Global Impact Week. Thank you, Jeremy Prince, CEO at Sigfox, Alexandre Tisserant, CEO at Kinéis, and Stephen Douglas, Head of Market Strategy at Spirent Communications. We hope you enjoyed this discussion, and feel free to send questions and share your thoughts online, #Webit.